Chevrolet is GM's volume division. They offer something for everybody, but what's surprising is that they didn't really offer a competitive small SUV. Sure, they had the Chevy Equinox, but it wasn't very refined and its fuel economy not good at all. Well, to try to solve that, GM's redesigned the Equinox, so we bought two of them to test, a 4-cylinder and a loaded V6. Probably the Equinox's biggest improvement is in handling. No matter if you get the 4-cylinder or the 6-cylinder, the steering is responsive and it's well weighted. Body control, it's kept in check. And emergency handling, it's confident and it's secure, aided by standard stability control. Cruising along, the Equinox is pretty quiet inside. One noticeable source of noise though is on the 4-cylinder, going up hills or merging, the engine gets a little buzzy when it's pushed. The Equinox rides well. Body motions, they're well controlled. And this goes for either the standard 17-inch wheels or the optional 18s. On the highway, it feels especially confident and steady. But one reason why the Equinox might feel so composed on the highway is that it weighs quite a bit. And that's noticeable with either powertrain. The 4-cylinder, it's certainly adequate around town, but you definitely have to push it to go up hills. It does get 21 miles per gallon. That's decent for a small SUV. The V6, now when you buy a V6, you normally expect plenty of power in a small SUV, but this 3-liter V6, it simply doesn't deliver that. In fact, most of us would stick with the normal 4-cylinder unless we had to tow. Another good reason to stick with the 4-cylinder, the V6 is quite thirsty. It gets 18 miles per gallon. That's the same as you can get out of a lot of larger SUVs. Both the 4-cylinder and the V6 use a 6-speed automatic transmission. It's calibrated to get the best fuel economy possible. Unfortunately, that means that it's often reluctant to downshift, which makes these cars feel even slower than they are. The Equinox has a few issues with visibility. Now, front and side visibility are decent, but all the pillars are thick. The A pillar is broad. When you look to the side, you see right into the B pillar. The rear roof pillars, they're thick because of the exterior styling. And the back window, it's not that big at all. But one thing that helps on higher trim levels of the Equinox, there's a standard backup camera in the rear view mirror. That's a big help when you're backing up. The Equinox's interior has lots of visually appealing touches. There's red stitching on the seats, on the armrest, and on the door panels. Even when you open up this storage compartment, there's a red liner. Also, on our Equinox 2LT with its optional leather seats, there's two-tone leather and a two-tone dashboard. But there's some shortcomings. All the plastics, they're hard. Some pieces are loose, and there's some sharp edges. Finally, these buttons, they don't line up right. Controls are fairly straightforward, but there's some annoyances here. There's a lot of buttons in a small space, and there's some odd decisions made as to their size. Why is the eject button bigger than the radio band button? You're going to use radio band a lot more often than you're going to be ejecting CDs. Also, the climate control buttons are fairly small, and the shiny background makes their labels hard to read. Finally, the power lock button, we prefer it on the doors, but in the Equinox, they're small, and they're in the center of the dash. A plus, the Equinox allows many drivers, tall and small, to get a comfortable position. There's a wide footwell and a tilt and telescope steering wheel. When you buy a fairly basic Equinox like our 4-cylinder, you get a manual seat, but it has power height and lumbar adjustments. Now, that might seem to be a good thing, but the power height adjustment, when you raise or lower the seat, it also moves the seat forward or back. Then I got to reach down, grab the lever, slide it back. Well, then I've just changed the height. So now I've got to move the height again, go back to the lever, move it forward. We recommend if you buy an Equinox, spend the extra money, get the full power seat. It's easier to adjust. Probably one of the biggest advantages of the Equinox is that it has a very roomy interior. It sort of splits the divide between a small SUV and a mid-sized two-row SUV. That's no more evident than in the back seat. Back here, there's tons of legroom, tons of headroom. You can fit 3 people across comfortably. And if you need more cargo space, the whole back seat, it slides forward. And you're still left with decent legroom. In the back, you'll find a roomy cargo area. You can also get an optional power liftgate. That's pretty rare for this class. No question, this Equinox is a big improvement over the last one. It's a pleasant car to drive, and it has a lot of room inside. But no matter how you cut it, it's competing against some extremely strong competition in this class.